you came on the air immediately as soon as the bombs started dropping in Venezuela, and you're sitting at some restaurant called La Fortuna, right? Now I have no idea where that is, but it's funny. But the funny thing is that when I watched this video and I pick up on this La Fortuna, and then I watched this video with this guy, and he starts talking about Venezuela La Fortuna. So were you in Venezuela before the bomb started dropping, dude? Who's behind that? Is there some CIA club out there that's behind pushing that? You think?
Well, let's not go that far. Let's just say that you have an industry. That's how they make a buck.
Sure.
They're not wrong to promote it.
Right.
You know, they want to get more. They're not doing it. They don't have to be doing it out of some dastardly nefarious purposes. They just, pushing their angle, and anything that sounds like it goes along with it, well, they push that too. And the reality is, you got to use your head.
Right.
And are the doctors going to attack that?
When this war is over, let's say a year, 2 years, 5 years from now, and we're still here with the grace of God, will 107 reveal what his overall, role was in this war that we're in right now? Are we going into Cuba at some point? Because the same shit that's been happening in Venezuela for 35 years has been happening in Cuba for a lot longer than that. Are we going in there? Are they going to be able to get finally toilet seats? Donald Trump, about a few months back, takes a video that was absolutely 100% fabricated artificial intelligence, and he put that video on Truth Social for a few hours, and it caused all kinds of crazy stuff. And Amber and I are in the business of, where people can come and heal on their own. Their body heals basically when they're in the frequency. The frequency doesn't heal you. It's the body that understands the frequency. It's the body that heals you. So we understand what this is. We know that they have technology that they've been hiding from us. My question to you is very simple. You are connected with some of the most amazing people based on who you are. Do you have any connections with people? Have you been brought to any secret military base that you know of that they actually have med beds, whatever you want to call it? It could be, celestial chambers, technology, obviously, that you and I don't understand. A lot of people out there don't understand. But we know that they have technologies out there that could wipe out the medical industry probably in 2 weeks. They don't want to do that, obviously, because it's vastly disruptive technology. But do you, sir, have any friends that have taken you or told you something secretly that maybe you might want to divulge to the crowd out here? The Mel Carmine Show begins in just 1 minute. Support the movement. Visit QFS1776.com for exclusive one-of-a-kind merch that makes a powerful statement. Protect your wealth. Cash is trash. Go to carminesgold.com and secure real assets, silver, gold, delivered anywhere in the U.S. Text Mel at 786-704-8817. Looking to acquire XRP? Minimum is $10,000 investment, and there is no limit, even up to $100 million worth. Again, text Mel with full details at 786-704-8817 and allow up to 24 hours for a response. And if by chance you're visiting Cape Canaveral or you are a local, visit stayingalive.com, alive with 2 E's, and recharge your body at the cellular level. The show with your host, Mel Carmine, starts right now. Well, guys, as you know, Maduro got picked up this morning. We had Venezuela surrounded with the entire most powerful army in the world, the American
Navy.
Army. What's that? Navy, yes. Navy,
Air Force,
Air Force.
Space Force.
Exactly. Juanito, this ain't over yet, right?
You had the guys tunneling in from underneath, too. So we had them from every corner.
Well, Juanito, this is not over yet. Don't tell me you're going to sing for our audience.
Oh, you mean 2020? It's not over yet.
That's the one, baby. Man, this thing went down pretty fast. How did they find him so fast? And how? Because I understand he was trying to get into a room, and maybe he had a tunnel escape system there ready to go. And how were they able to block him?
Well, it's actually a little more complex than that. He had one of his trusted people who was actually on the payroll or cooperating with CIA, was actually probably a little more involved than just that. That was an easy way of saying it. Um, but we had direct intelligence on his movements and everything about his, if he got loose, where would he go? Who would he rely on to make his escape, if you will? And of course, knew about his secure room and got to him before he could get in and close the door. And so there'll be lots of great, cool, interesting things probably that come out over time, but a lot of it we don't want to come out because, as General Kane, his nickname is Raising Kane, uh, uh, Air Force General. As he said, we may need to use some of this again at some point in the future, so we don't want to give away all of our secrets. But as I explained to your audience and other audiences previously, the great threat against somebody like Maduro is his own people who decide that maybe they need to go a different direction, and that's exactly what happened. Somebody was close enough, gave all the details. We were able to vet the information and then act on it. Um, and even within Venezuela, his exact location had been being concealed. Um, you know, active measures trying to feint being someplace else other than where he truly actually was.
Right.
And, like any of the big drug lords. So
I mean,
we got
the fact that he's had all these opportunities to literally walk away, take his millions, relax, go somewhere, and never have to worry about this ever again, really proves that these guys are completely drunk on power, aren't they?
well, yes. And then they believe their own, um,
Bullshit.
they're in an information reverberating bubble of some sort, and they start to believe that you know what the people around him are telling him. Because remember, Maduro, he had clear offers to just step away. He can, you know, do so gracefully. He was going to have to do certain things before he went and as he went, but he was going to be allowed to go, hang out at his tropical retreat. He wasn't going to be allowed to do mischief into the rest of the world. He'd have to admit to some things, but he had a chance to, get the hell out of Dodge, and he didn't take it. And my only comment, I mentioned it on the other couple shows that I did today. The people that should be listening the closest to what just happened and the sequence. Trump engaged with, interacted with, messaged with Maduro. Maduro had clear opportunities to walk away, and we would have not been super excited because we want to see justice, but it would have spared the potential of uh, deaths and drama. Okay, um, including for his own people, and he chose not to. Um, those people that stayed with him suffered. There's some that are having to make a choice right now. Are they going to try to carry on where Maduro left off? They're going to have a bad hair day for the rest of what remains of their life in this world, probably.
Hmm.
Or they can back off, even find a way to engage with and assist, and to get Venezuela back on track, help the Venezuelan people.
Hmm.
Uh, if they do decide to change course, that will turn out to have been a very wise decision, life-saving decision in some cases on their part.
Hmm.
But the same kind of what we saw today was Trump, an evolution of Trump. The next step in the Trump machine taking form and shape. Uh, it took place outside of the U.S., but we've only seen glimmers of it within the U.S. borders as he's working around the world to bring peace and resolve and like that. But he's going to do it right here at home also. The specific point of contact that's going to be high on the list, Colorado with Tina Peters. They thought, the governor thought that he could uh, give the finger to Trump and to the American Constitution with his seditious, taunting, yeah, 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 you can't get me, whatever. I'm telling you, I would not want to be anywhere in range of where Maduro is going to bounce off the walls after Trump kicks him in the ass so hard with the pointy boot that he leaves a dent in the left cheek, even though the first hit was on the right cheek. Okay.
Right.
It's going to be so painful.
You should let him borrow your boots, Juanito.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I probably lend him the ones with the
With the
metal
steel
toe.
tip.
Yeah, yeah, I've got the silver tipped ones. They're a little too showy for me, but I don't mind using them once in a while, and especially for demonstrative purposes, you might as well do it with a little flair and style, right?
Exactly, exactly. Should the other leaders right now of other world leaders be worried based on what happened? Because I mean, Donald Trump just executed a military operation with military precision that's going to be written in the history books for the next 10,000 years.
Well, what's especially amazing about it, people don't understand the logistics. When you do something like this, all the other intelligence agencies are looking. You have Cuban intelligence aiding and assisting by location with China and Russia there in Cuba.
Right.
And a lot of the activity goes on in this region around the Caribbean where they've got great listening posts. They've got the satellite networks. Iran has satellites, let alone Russia and China. And so they're looking at things that can be construed as, look, Trump's got all this military there, this huge force built up. In part, all of that acted as cover because there was so much activity just to support what's there in place. They didn't pick up this actual coordinated move that was designed to, start the process of coming in to go get Maduro. So it was hidden within all of the other movements. They didn't see this action coming the way it was. There was no forewarning. In fact, in the final moments, as they were getting ready to go into this little compound where Maduro was hiding with his wife, with all of his security forces, mostly Cuban, by the way. Excuse me.
Interesting.
Mostly Cuban. Um, they had intel that was in the wall, uh, yeah, inside the wire for Maduro, that they had absolutely no concern that they were about to be, under direct attack until it actually happened. And the amount of time it took to get through this phalanx, this wall of security, to get to Maduro himself was so fast that he did not have time to travel the few feet from where he was at the moment that the whole thing started to his safe room and get inside there. Now, had he gotten the safe room, he wouldn't have been in there for that long. We have options. We'd have gotten, that torn apart with movie textbook technology.
Right.
But it still would have, slowed things down a bit.
Yeah.
And by the way, it was so fast, it was actually for Maduro's benefit, because if it had gone slower, there probably would have been more gunfire. And it's very possible that he could have got caught in some of the crossfire, etc. But it happened so quickly and with such precision that he survived those engagements, so we could capture him. So and he's needed. Look, he gets taken out. Trump himself said, that, we expected going in that there was a fair possibility he might very well be casualties in this. He survived. The beauty of that, the value there is that he's going to get to be around to provide testimony, affidavits, even point at where some of the evidence is. We already have a lot that may further tighten the noose on 2020 and other activities. At this point, he has nothing to offer, blackmail wise towards Trump. The only thing he has is to work a deal. Maybe he gets extra pair of socks, an extra blanket in his beddy or something. A couple calls to his wife every week or month or something. He's going away forever. He had the chance to go to, he had a couple of places he could have gone, a couple exit routes, and, enjoy nice meals, sunshine, a few talks with friends here and there. He could have had a much more comfortable time in exile, similar to Marcos and what Marcos had. He chose not to do that, and now he will spend it in a supermax of some type, whether it's the one in Colorado or one down at Gitmo. And remember what he did with interfering in the elections here in the U.S. and across the world. They were acts of war. We have him in U.S. custody for drug trafficking and some terrorism stuff. They may very well come in with their attorneys, scream bloody murder. There's going to be a UN Security Council meeting and everybody's going to get all fussy. Okay. Maduro has to be careful. If his people make the case right, we may very well have to turn him over to custody with an international court looking at him for war crimes with election interference. And we'll conduct those war crimes trials right there from Gitmo. We have a place. And the whole world can come watch. We'll televise it everywhere.
Right. Well, we got these kids who have channels on YouTube who went to, the school of Matrix, and they're brainwashed to be communist and good little socialist, etc. And they're saying, we basically kidnapped Maduro. This was a sovereign nation. They don't realize, they don't acknowledge the fact that this guy was shipping drugs. He
No. Let me help
destroyed
you out. Hold
his
on. Let me
people.
let me help you out, bro. First off, multiple countries around the world have already agreed that Maduro got into power through election fraud.
Yes, we know that.
So, with that in mind, he was not the legitimate leader
Correct.
of Venezuela. And then, as a criminal organization, were responsible for the deaths of thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of Americans with the drug trafficking done in collusion with China. Now, the reason that's really important, we prosecute people who sell drugs that result in the death of the person who purchased the drugs or was given the drugs. We prosecute those persons because they, their acts ended up in a death. Okay. It can be murder, it can be manslaughter. Depends on what the prosecutor wants to do. But those drugs were responsible for it. Here we have an Al Capone running a country through election fraud, and then in the fraud of elections across the world, 71 countries plus the United States, according to the people that were doing work for and with Maduro. So with that in mind, we have every right to go hunt him down and bring him to justice here in the U.S. justice system. And by the way, as an act of terrorism, as a participant in acts of terrorism. By international law, we're allowed to go out and hunt somebody like that down and bring them to justice here in the U.S. To protect populations around the world. This is a person who is responsible directly and indirectly for the deaths of thousands and thousands and thousands, arguably millions within the drug arena and deaths. Those people that may not understand that, it's unfortunate that you're not understood, well versed enough, adult enough to understand it or get it or whatever. It doesn't matter. We do. Grow up.
Yeah.
And when you figure it out, great. In the meantime, adults are now in charge of, driving this thing, and you're just going to have to watch and learn. And by the way, their numbers, they're relatively small. And if you actually got right down to it, if they wanted to admit it, this crowd that's objecting to this could probably name on both hands people that they knew who were damaged or died because of the drugs that were being dealt into America by this criminal group. And by the way, one of the details that President Trump mentioned during the news conference, 97% of the drugs coming into America, 97% of the drugs coming into America were coming via Venezuelan gangs and architecture.
Wow.
That was the chosen managers, okay? And it just stopped. Even the stuff coming out of Colombia and being transited to the U.S., the Venezuelans were managing most all of this, the stuff coming through South Africa up into Europe, originating in Venezuela. That's all come to an end now. And what you're going to see over the time, over this next year, is the number of Americans dying from drug overdoses is going to go down radically. Yes, the cost of drugs on the streets is going to go up. But then again, maybe the users goes down and the supply and demand thing, maybe the value of the drugs goes down because there's not as many people using them in the first place. Maybe we had a lot of people sorted out and cleaned up or out of the country. There's so many variables. It's going to be hard to, pick a lane of an idea which one's going to prevail in the days and weeks and months coming.
Right. Right. Now, I understand that we put all of the infrastructure in Venezuela so that they can get the oil out of the ground, et cetera. So they owe us a lot of oil that they said, fuck you, we're not paying you at some point. That's one of the reasons why we're there. We're going to collect that money that they owe us.
Well, let's say it with a little more precision. The ship of state of Venezuela was captured by criminals. They got there through election fraud with help from three-letter agencies, including out of the U.S., the Brits, other groups around the world, Iran, Cuba, etc., Russia early on, China later. The real victims here were the Venezuelan people in the worst ways possible. They didn't see it coming, and they didn't have a way out as it continued to grow. So we're not going to double down on the wrong. We're going to go in there, take back control of facilities that were U.S. owned and controlled, U.S. businesses that we helped get in there. We're going to return those properties. There's also people from other countries that had huge investments in the architecture or the infrastructure of Venezuela. We'll help them get their ownership back. They're going to have to rebuild what's there. It's all completely rotten away. And with new technology, we actually can go back and re-engineer those wells way better than they were ever done in the first place. Far greater efficiency. We can do from the bed of a tractor trailer rig what used to take 100 times more steel, 10 times as many employees to accomplish the same thing that we can do from the bed of a flatbed truck. We can go 5 miles down and 5 miles out from the bed of a flatbed truck.
Wow.
It's unfathomable. And that's stuff that was developed here in America. And we can do it with greater precision and much cleaner than anything that's ever been able to be done before. So, who's going to benefit from this? Well, the Venezuelan people.
Sure.
They're going to finally get to enjoy the wealth.
Yeah.
Their own land. We'll rebuild Venezuela with them, shoulder up with them. We're not there to be our brother's keeper.
Right.
We're there to be our brother's brother. And by the way, Venezuela has always had a very strong Christian population. They were hijacked.
Right.
And literally, you're going to see a raising from the dead of people of faith there in Venezuela. We're going to go there and help them out. We're not going to be the next monster. And all the stuff from Maduro and everybody else saying that we're there for the oil wealth and all that. We'll get plenty of oil wealth out of it. It'll go out to the world, be transacted. Hey, if China wants to buy oil from Venezuela, let them. They'll pay market prices. And by the way, to the extent that they were there ripping off the Venezuelan people, we might force them to. Okay, I had a message I had to read there real quick. We're going to help them get it more efficiently, get more money out of it. We're going to become strong trading partners with Venezuela. The Venezuelans got to sell oil. What are they going to do? They're going to buy the infrastructure to rebuild their country.
Yeah.
The business infrastructure, jobs for Venezuelans. And we'll send Americans down there and work with them. We're both going to benefit. And the stability in the region, that's one of the things that President Trump mentioned. We want strong neighbors, strong trading partners. Why? Because then anybody trying to come after us, has to come through a very strong series of partners who have mutual interest with us. We're going to shoulder up with them. If China and Russia want to come attack the world, well, they're not just attacking individual groups or countries like Venezuela was, and nobody's there to assist them. If they can attack Venezuela, they're going to attack America, and we're going to come to their assistance, and vice versa. We're going to have very strong trade partners around the world, and we're going to bring back honest elections, not just for America, but to the rest of the world also. Honest money, not just for America, but to the rest of the world also. So amazing things are just ahead.
Right.
The only other thing I want to mention, I kind of say it kiddingly, but when I turned on the TV and saw the explosions and helicopters and everything else, I thought they were breaking Teen out.
Well, how is
that may
gonna,
yet be coming? That may yet be coming. The 101st Airborne wasn't used in this operation.
Why don't we do that? Why doesn't Trump do that?
Don't be surprised. He's warned and warned, just like he warned Maduro. You think his warnings were just rhetoric and beating and pounding the chest when he warned Polis, to free Tina Peters? You think that was just air? I'm very
I think
serious.
he's got the balls to do it. I just, you just don't know when he's going to move.
It's not just the balls; it's the resolve.
Yeah,
it's not just being, I told you so or whatever. What Governor Polis did was he uh, made a seditious move in defying the pardon of Tina Peters
Mhm.
as the president. It's seditious because it undermines the authority of the president of the United States, which the president clearly has. You know, there's never, ever, ever, ever been a presidential pardon that's been overturned or even challenged, ever. This is the
Mhm.
first time.
Mhm.
Saying that Colorado has some exclusive right, state right, against President Trump's pardon. There's no precedence ever for that in American history, history. Um, he wants to see something from a judge. Oh, so a judge is more powerful, a regional judge, than the president of the United States? You think that's going to stand? They've tried that maneuver several times. The president's been winning pretty consistently. I think they will, uh, find out the hard way that Trump's right and they're wrong. And he may not wait for the courts to act. The courts will find him to have been correct. Because there'll be stuff that'll be played out in court anyway. But it'll be done with Tina in safety. Pawn to queen is the next move.
Interesting.
Watch
Yeah.
and see if I'm not
Before
right.
we go any further, thejennifermack.com, thejennifermack.com. I understand you got a special silver token that you're selling right now, which is a collector's item or something
Well,
like
it's not
that.
a token; it's a coin, and
Coin.
our stuff is pure silver. A token's usually some type of a um, brass or something like that,
Right.
and uh, so it's 999 silver, um,
Right.
1 ounce, troy ounce, and but for 2026, the first coin in the series is the call from our movie, The Makings of a Perfect Day.
Hmm.
Kind of an appropriate date to have it come out. You know, we released it. It was posted over initially at Jen's site and over at gumroad.com uh, just about the exact time that Trump authorized the action going into Venezuela, 10:47 last night Eastern, and uh, we not that exact time, but pretty close. And the movie had about 5.5 million views in that first year that
Mm.
we put it out. So heavily suppressed. They tried to take it down everywhere. We put it out for free, download and share, and people did, and it got amazing um, coverage all over the place. Um, and the event was President Trump in the days after he decided not to have an insurrection act document created on December 18th of 2020. He did ask for the American people to show up on January 6th when the electors from around the country were going to show up and Congress was going to hear them and then choose the winner of the 2020 election. In spite of the fact that the Executive Order 13848, which called for the Director of National Intelligence to conduct an investigation before, during, and after any federal election and determine if there was foreign interference, uh, and then get back to him within 45 days. Well, that was December 18th of 2020, and no report ever got to Trump in that time period. Congress proceeded to vote and to hear the electors from around the country come in and say that Biden won the election, which was a falsehood. There's symbology in this. That was 5 years ago, and It was the largest gathering in Washington, D.C. in history. Arguably between 1.5 million and 2 million people showed up in Washington, D.C. on January 6th to make their presence known. Um, uh, they didn't come to riot. They didn't come to dismantle Washington, D.C. They came in peace. There was an active effort to try and spark some kind of civil unrest that would have resulted in rioting and mass deaths and everything else. Didn't happen. The spark didn't take, even with all the government contractors and employees that were there to cause mischief. They didn't succeed. It was one of the most amazing days in American history. The American people showed up. And by the way, one thing that was said, I think Michael said it, Michael Jaco, when we were talking earlier today.
Mm.
If you remember, everybody knew something was probably going to happen. If there hadn't been this chill, this black cloud over January 6th coming up on it, instead of having 1.5 million to 2 million people show up that day, you might have had 5 or 10 million people show up. And so those that did show up, that called, as President Trump called them to please come.
Oops, we lost them. You're still in Italy now?
Yeah, I'm in Rome. Yeah, we were.
Okay, gotcha.
Went past the Colosseum like 3 times today.
Interesting. I want to show you something. I'm not going to play the video. You came on the air immediately as soon as the bomb started dropping in Venezuela. Do you see my video by any chance? It's
No.
You don't see my video?
Oh, well, right now. Oh, yeah, I see it there. Yeah.
Okay, great. The famous Nino Rodriguez champion. He's
Yeah.
a pretty good friend of both of ours. And you're sitting at some restaurant called La Fortuna, right? Now, I have no idea where that is, but it's funny. Now, tell me if you can see this screen. Let me see if this one. Can you see this screen?
Yep.
War in Venezuela equals $100 silver, blah, blah, blah. Great. But the funny thing is that when I watch this video, and I have like a photographic memory, Juan, and I pick up on this La Fortuna, and then I watch this video with this guy, and he starts talking about Venezuela, La Fortuna, and I'm saying, is Juanito in Caracas, Venezuela? Because he associated La Fortuna, Venezuela, Caracas, and I'm saying, what's going on here? I mean, it begs the question, right? So were you in Venezuela before the bomb started dropping, dude?
Well, I mean, I've been to Venezuela many times, so it was over the years, yeah.
Okay, because that is just one weird coincidence. I'm watching this video. We're going playing phone tag to try to get you back on. Then it wasn't able to happen. So I go to the gym. I'm sweating in 205 degrees sauna. I come out and I start watching that Chinese guy, which I was one of the first ones to send you videos on that guy, who's very spot on, by the way. And all of a sudden, this guy's talking La Fortuna. I'm like, I saw that sign on Nino Rodriguez's video. Sure enough, I go back and there it is. So you weren't there, right? You weren't at the scene of the crime.
No, not during this. No.
But I got to tell you, I've been wearing my Make XRP Great Again T-shirt, and I will go into the bank, and people are smiling. They don't even see the XRP. They just see Donald Trump's face, and they're smiling. I'm saying, are you from Venezuela? These people look like they're from Latin America. No, I'm from Brazil, and I wish that Trump would go to Brazil and do the same thing he did to Venezuela, because obviously they're having problems down there too. So
yeah, it's a different kind of a problem in Brazil, and but yes, there's work things. When things got hijacked across South America, we had a great operation going there to centralize the drug trade in the 80s under Reagan, and then to shut it down. And unfortunately, during the Bush administration, opportunists came in, and instead of following through where we had the drug situation ready to shut down, similar to what we're doing right now with Trump,
Hmm.
These opportunists came in and hijacked all of that. They hijacked the money that should have come back from having collapsed the Soviet Union and threw it into black bag operations. And much of the damage going on across the world is the follow on from not completing those operations, which were actually stunningly amazing. And, you know, part of why I do what I do. So, but we're about to see this turned around yet again, and rein these things in, and we're well on the way right now with that. So, yeah.
Well, you said do what I do, and nobody really knows what you do. You were like this elusive, very mysterious character that came onto the scene about 5 years ago, and people are still trying to
Well, that's
having a
not
hard
really
time.
quite accurate. I was in the background with a number of the hosts, um, back into the early '90s. I just
Mm,
wasn't doing any direct appearances, and so I'd get a call from Rush, I'd get a call from Reagan, I'd get a call from Art Bell, and probably 2 dozen other hosts that people wouldn't remember today that were pretty big in the day, and when they had questions on some of the stuff, and I was glad to at least give them my perspective, and try to you know help them to understand context, and they go blend in with other things and say what they said. The only reason that I even did a show out in the open was because one of the hosts I'd given some stuff to in the background kept embellishing it in ways that certain folks knew that I was talking to that particular host, and they're like, "Have you heard what he's been saying?" And I'm like, "What? What? No." And so I agreed to do a live interview, and then I was very careful to point out stuff that I had said specifically, and other stuff that was said was not from me. They claimed from another source, which was fine, but wasn't me. So
right.
that wasn't accurate, and I just felt I had to clarify that. And but then I got other requests and stuff, and
Yeah.
that's the way it was. And of course, that was in the context of Benghazi,
Yeah.
and so. There was certain things that happened. There's a whole bunch of stuff that was said happened, didn't happen, and clarify some of that. So anyway,
Are you there in Rome? Have you ever met with Giorgia Meloni, the Prime Minister of Italy? Or are you about to meet with her? Do you have any contacts with her at all?
no, President said some nice things because she's done a lot to get Italy kind of steered back on course, and um, Italy is a strange bird in a lot of different ways. So, um, this whole region of the world has been um, very controlled by secret hands, hidden hands, for eons, and so much of what's going on in the world has reverberations back to here, and the intelligence agencies. So it's an interesting location, but um, I probably wouldn't have any need to talk with her or do anything direct with her myself.
Gotcha. At least the food is good, and I understand they don't spray their crops there with glyphosates and Roundup.
I will tell you this, and Jen mentioned it a couple of times over the last, week and a half we've been here, 2 weeks. The flavors are much more intense in lots of the foods, and we buy fresh a lot, and but even the meals we've had the last couple of days, yeah, markedly. You might have food that we might have other places, but you get the intensity of the flavors much more. I think it's beyond just the cooking; it's the produce that they have, and what people will accept
Yeah, I'm about
as
to
the
actually
quality of the
reach out.
food.
Yeah, I'm about to actually reach out to the Amish people and see if I could get them to start setting up, farmers markets everywhere, at least here in Florida, because I understand their cancer rate is like less than 4%.
Well, let me just add this though. It's the nutrient density of the food, but it's also the types of food. Um, certainly, uh, less meat is probably advisable. You have people going to more and more and more meat, and that's actually not, the way we were designed scripturally. If you want to go to the garden, were they slaughtering animals every day and eating them? No. Are we somewhat changed in the book of Adam and Eve, which the Egyptians um, had? The lore of it is that when Joseph was sold into slavery in Egypt, and then later brought his family into Egypt when he became second only to Pharaoh, really running the country.
Mm.
They had a passed down history, a verbal history within the family of Adam and Eve's first 50 days outside the garden. And so Joseph recorded that in writing. It had been verbal up to that point in time. And so that's the way that the Egyptians understood the history of Adam and Eve, is those first 50 days. And one of the more notable things in there is that when they left the garden, Adam and Eve, but Adam complained that he couldn't digest the food, and there was nothing that he could eat. And the way the book tells it is because his their inward parts, were not fully developed outside the garden yet. That they digest his food. Fruits.
Mhm.
The scripture says the fruits were given for food, and then the herbs for medicine.
Right.
Vegetables, things like that. And so they were primarily fruit eaters, and probably almost exclusively.
Mm.
And so God sent one of his angels into the garden and picked a couple of ripe figs, and these were big, huge figs. I don't remember if it says the size in it, but they were, huge figs. And then those figs didn't rot. They put them in the cave where they were living, and they consumed those for quite some time uh, while their inward parts were continuing to develop. So, are we able to digest meats and grains and things like that? Yeah. Is that what our bodies were originally designed for primarily? No. But were they changed after the garden? And that's kind of this question, are we, really supposed to be carnivores or fruit eaters? And um, a part of that goes into this whole thing that we're looking at with the parasites. Um, and these parasitic blooms that are going on right now in the country. Um, there's a lot of research that's showing that we have become um, much more inundated within our food supply and our environment by certain types of parasites. And actually even part two of that question is um, during the 1800s, 1900s, people didn't live as long as they do now, as a general rule. You had a handful of people like uh, Benjamin Franklin lived into his 80s. You have the majority of the population didn't live past 40, 45. Were considered to be getting pretty old guys, 50. And but the food and the lifestyle were such that it seemed to encourage um, you know parasitic things like that dying not from the you know work or the labor or just general aging, but getting eaten alive from the inside out. And we see some signs that for all that we should be living to 120 or more, We're still not making it there. And when you really start digging into it, um, there's opportunistically different types of parasites seem to be getting a hold. For guys, as an example, and I'll talk to a whole bunch of guys in this audience for a second, take a deep breath. These parasites in the pancreas and bladder are way, way more common right now and virulent than ever in the last 100 years. And a number of the people behind the scenes are noting this, and it is causing impotency. You want to replace it with drugs for the pleasant way of saying it, ED. And the reality is, it's a simple parasite that's actually pretty easy to kill. And they don't talk about that. They want you to keep taking the drugs.
Of course.
You can be rid of those parasites in your pancreas and bladder in 5-6 days. That are, I have a very, very close friend. Everybody in the community would know him. He was hitting the restroom literally every half hour.
Wow.
And he'd been diagnosed with a early onset type of or a more.
Is it somebody that I would know?
Yeah, and they were saying that it was he was diabetic, all sorts of things. And I says, I don't think I'd go check this and do this, and sure enough, had parasitic bloom. It took him a week. He says, "Oh my gosh." His wife calls me. "Oh my gosh," and this is a guy. I'm trying to be honest with our crew here. Okay, there's a lot of guys don't even know what's going on. They never even dreamed in this way.
Yeah.
Never occurred to them. Okay, I'm telling you, it's endemic. One of the doctors I spoke with probably 6-7 months ago, I said he had tracked this. He's retired now. He had tracked this back in the 60s and 70s and 80s. And it was something you would see in patients 50, 60 years old, maybe 1 out of 20 patients with this parasite, virulent. And he has a practice that he's sold off to other doctors, but he's still there, involved a little bit. And they're saying that they're seeing it in 60-70% of the patients they see now. He says, our detection systems aren't any better and our observations aren't any better. It's that this is that much more virulent within the population. It's something with the food. It's just gotten a better hold. It's in the water. It's whatever. It's pretty straightforward to deal with, keep under control, but it's a parasite.
Yeah.
And and by the way, just so people understand, when you're taking ivermectin and fenbendazole and other things, one of the risks there is that it pushes the parasites to other areas of the body, or it changes what gets a little bit of a hold. So you think that you're taking care of the parasitic problem, those are great products, but they're not everything. It only hits about 20% of the parasites, and there's other stuff that you should be doing within your diet.
What is some of the stuff you're doing, Juanito?
Well, everybody got pushed to the carnivore diets and things like that, and I think that the weighting their diets more to the fruits. Part of the thing is this, this, you don't want to get cancer, and the fruits feed the cancer. No, the sugars feed the cancer.
Right.
If you're getting fruit, and a lot of it can make a huge dent. In fact, there's books all the way back to the 1800s and 20th century and like that. We're in the 21st century now. Talking about, for example, grapes, that literally when they had to do a cleanse, you got all these people that have, these very complex cleanses to clear the gut out and get everything out of you. And but one of the simplest ones was just using grapes. And there's something about the nutrients in grapes that is very hard for the parasites to deal with. And so, literally, one of the things for a number of disease protocols was to switch to eating only grapes for 1 or 2 weeks,
Really?
and even longer in some protocols, and
With
nothing
seeds?
else. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter because it's not. It's about getting a environment, kind of like a field effect, within the blood chemistry that the parasites just can't survive, and it's a pretty wide spectrum in the ones that they go after, especially in the upper gut. You can clear the lower gut pretty readily. It's the upper gut where if you get something going there, then you've really got problems because it's very hard to clear some of that out. And there's a lot of different kinds of parasites. And so you can try to go after them one at a time, specific thing at a time. But when you didn't have the technology of zappers and magnetic pulsers and chemistry labs and all that, some of the folks came up with that. The first miracle that Christ did that's recorded in the scriptures is what?
Not sure.
Turning water into wine. Where's the wine
Okay.
come from?
I remember that.
Yeah. So, and then the last thing that Christ did, with the when he was with the apostles for the Last Supper, he, gave them to drink of the wine. This is my blood given for you. This is my body given for you. This is my blood given for you. Do this in remembrance of me. So it again involved, a product of the grapes. And so there's a certain school of thought. In fact, there's a book talking about, the grape cure or whatever that's out there. And so it's an interesting thing to look at for all the complexities that people want to bring to this and variations, etc. Sometimes the simplest is best. And just creating an environment that is not good at hosting these little critters is very worthwhile.
So
So,
you're talking basically to have more of a balanced diet where you have some meat, but not all meat. But you have a balance of some fruits and vegetables as well.
well, yeah, I mean, the tree that milk and grains and all that stuff might not be quite exactly right. If
Mhm.
I
Well,
guarantee
there's
you that Adam and Eve
experts
didn't
out
eat from
there.
that tree.
Yeah, there are experts out there that talk about food combinations, and that's where I think we all get it wrong. The food combinations, I think, have a lot to do with it. I know that
Well, if you look
parasites
at
hate
other
cloves.
animals, do other animals uh, do a variety of foods? No.
Hmm.
They tend to do singular foods in season. For example, the bears are not eating fish all year long, they're eating berries. They
Right.
primarily eat berries. The fish is just a seasonal thing, get the fat on before they go into hibernation. Um, if you're talking the fish runs and all that, they forage for the berries and stuff like that.
You'd probably lose a lot of
That
weight though if you ate grapes for 2 weeks straight and nothing else.
Well, one of the things, and people go longer than that. One of the things is if you've got things in your system that aren't supposed to be there, the idea with the fruits or grapes is that helps to flush the adrenal glands much better. And saying I'm going to not have sugar, I'm only going to have meat and be a carnivore and all that. Um, that does not flush the adrenals. When you look at most of the disease protocols that people have a problem with, it's usually because you're not flushing the pollutants out of your system, the decaying matter, especially things like meat
Hmm.
decaying your gut. John Wayne, when they did the autopsy on John Wayne when he died, right on the autopsy it said that he had 25 pounds of undigested meat
Wow,
in his stomach. 25 pounds.
that's a lot of meat.
Okay. Well,
Maybe
if you're
that's my
talking about,
problem. Is that why I got a big belly? I got undigested meat.
well, but that's actually probably not inaccurate.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
and when you think about that, see, even looking at the various things with various types of protocols with the wavelengths of light, the energy, all the things like that. The reality is you still have to get your gut cleared out. You have to get your blood clean. Your adrenals, your body is filled with adrenal glands,
Right.
filtering. If they get plugged and they don't get clear, then you can run into problems where eventually it becomes a tumor, it's cancerous, and you're dying.
Sure.
All sorts of things can fester there. So what you're really trying to do is to clear those adrenals on a continuing basis. The fruits are what does that. The meats, the vegetables do not clear adrenal glands.
Gotcha. I
So
know there's a
if you're
big
not,
push for carnivore, man. You can't change the channel on YouTube. Carnivore, carnivore, carnivore. Just eat eggs and meat. You'll
well,
be fine. You know,
yeah, and then you have to question who's pushing. Look, I eat meat. Um,
who's
but
behind that? Is there some CIA club out there that's behind pushing that? You think?
well, let's not go that far. Let's just say that you have an industry. That's how they make a buck.
Sure.
They're not wrong to promote it.
Right.
They want to get more. They're not doing it. They don't have to be doing it out of some dastardly nefarious purposes. They just
Hmm.
are pushing their angle, and anything that sounds like it goes along with it, well, they push that too. And the reality
Sure.
is, you got to use your head.
Right.
And are the doctors going to attack that? Not really. They just want to, give you a pill, and that's
Sure.
part of the rest of it. Is, even with the concentrates of, you got to get vitamin C out of a pill. You got to get vitamin E and D and everything else out of a pill. Those concentrates like that can actually be pretty nasty for your body. Also, I had another gal. I mean, this is a very long time ago, probably 40 years ago, and she got a super fast type of cancer in her stomach. It was so fast. She was playing soccer in the afternoon, and she was a goalie, and the ball, she caught it in her stomach, and within an hour she was in intense pain right then and there. But it became bad enough that they took her to a hospital, and then that hospital um, take the time to send her by an ambulance to
Right.
another hospital. They flew a helicopter in and flew her, like an hour away to another hospital.
Interesting.
By the time they got her to this other hospital, they literally decided they had minutes to
Wow.
operate, and they opened her up. And this was a gal that, I mean, she was healthy. If anybody would look at her and say, "Oh man, she's like Olympian healthy or whatever,"
Right.
but she had a rapidly metastasizing cancer that was about the size of a grapefruit when they cut it
Wow.
out. And as a sideline, and it was not even mentioned in the main part of all of this discussion. She had been taking some stuff for nutrients, just regular vitamins for nutrients, nothing weird or wild or anything like that. But the doctor noted that they wanted to test the undigested tablets in her gut and verify that they were actually what she claimed they were. And when she showed me the report, it showed 90 undigested pills in her gut.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, that they had removed, and because her system wasn't digesting them,
I didn't
they
know you
weren't
were very
dissolving.
well
So,
versed on food. I know that you're out eating all the time as you're traveling all the time, and you got to tell them, hey, I don't want margarine, I want butter, and I don't want seed oils, I want olive oil, etc. Otherwise, they'll destroy you. But anyway,
well, a lot of the olive oil isn't really olive oil. That's
I mean,
that's one
there's a
thing you can
scam
sure
there
taste
too.
the
Yes,
difference there.
yeah,
And then
absolutely.
and then the seed oils. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh! I mean, once you understand what's going on with they call it rapeseed. It's
Yep.
actually rapeseed
Oh yeah,
oil.
absolutely, absolutely.
And more restaurants. I noticed it. We were in Vegas a few weeks ago, and they actually had the advertisements on the cabs. Where they advertise restaurants like that, and it said no seed oils at this one restaurant.
Yeah. Well, that's smart because people are
All the
getting
women
educated out there. So it's
glommed to that
yeah,
restaurant because they're beginning to understand this.
yeah, people are
Yeah.
starting to get educated.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I got to
Well,
make
and
two
from the
quick
farming side, I
announcements.
mean, I pay attention to the,
Yeah. I got to make two quick announcements.
yeah.
Guys, if you want silver, I just talked to my partner, Andrew, yesterday. He said 2 weeks. There's a 2 weeks waiting period, and you'll get the silver in 2 weeks, guaranteed. But going forward after the 2 weeks, we don't know. The market is extremely unstable. I think we might even hit $80 today and probably go beyond it. Who knows? The markets are moving in the green side. Even the cryptos are moving in that direction. And also, I'm going to put down below. I put a blog together that I want you guys to repost like crazy. I'm trying to get the attention of the bigger boys up there, even the owners of X.com. Elon Musk and so on. The censorship has got to come to a halt. It's got to come to a stop. I want to be able to be judged by you, the people, not the algorithms, on how popular I get to be and how many people can listen to me, etc. So that needs to go hyper viral. The link's going to be down below this video. Make sure you retweet it and tell everybody you know to retweet it as well. Other than that, listen. I never asked you this question, but I got to ask you. I'm sure that at some point, based on what you do, I know you got to do. You have to be doing something with the government at some level. You had to sign a non-disclosure agreement
No,
somewhere.
not,
No,
no, no, no, no, no,
okay,
no, no, no.
never.
I've had a history as a contractor. I'm not doing anything
So you're a contractor. You're
as a
not
direct
working
employee
directly
here.
for the government.
Yeah, well, I'm not doing anything right now. I'm not doing anything for any agencies right now. Nope.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm doing this for the American
When
people.
this war is over, let's say a year, 2 years, 5 years from now, and we're still here with the grace of God, will 107 reveal what his overall, role was in this war that we're in right now?
Well, I don't think there's anything to reveal. I've done what I've done for free.
Mm-hmm.
I have done the interviews. I'm trying to give a perspective based on my history and observations, what the various things mean. Um, we have lots of amazing patriots that
Mm-hmm.
are putting their life in here and their efforts in here for free.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Including
in
myself.
my case, I've been paying. It's cost me a fortune. I think I'm, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
if 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 people only knew. But anyway, yeah.
But anyway, guys, don't forget to follow him, thejennifermac.com. My editor will put the link right down below his video. Manuel Morero Cruz from Cuba. Are we going into Cuba at some point? Because the same shit that's been happening in Venezuela for 35 years has been happening in Cuba for a lot longer than that. Are we going in there? Are they going to be able to get finally toilet seats? They have no
Well,
toilet seats.
let me just say this: Cuba was running Venezuela.
We
It
know
was
that.
all Cuban security and all that. I told your audience and many other audiences this, you know, 10 years ago, 5 years ago,
Mhm.
3 years ago, 1 year ago, months ago. Cuba's running Venezuela. They ran Chavez.
Right.
When Chavez died, um, they didn't want the world to know that he was dead yet because they were trying to rearrange things. So his Cuban handlers, under direct instruction from Raul Castro, made Chavez's daughters sit beside his dead corpse as though he was okay, he was alive, with a newspaper for proof of life with the current date, even though he'd been dead for several days.
Wow.
Okay. While they continued to reorganize Venezuela.
Interesting.
And it was the Cubans that did that. We killed, over 30 Cuban security personnel around Maduro in the course of this attack. Cuba was being run primarily by the Russians. Now it's being run primarily by the Chinese.
Right.
And this whole thing with Venezuela,
Hmm.
in large measure, is an end run on China, who was going after the energy out of Venezuela. Energy makes the world go round. They were raping Venezuela. We're going to go in there and make sure. Part of the reason we're not just going to hand it over to a bunch of Venezuelans is because it's a very captured society. It's
Right.
going to take a little bit for them to get their back on their feet, and then even the programming, all they've gotten is programming, based around this crowd that's been running Venezuela remote control. It'll take it'll take a little bit for the Cuban people to take a deep breath, get
Mhm.
their bearings, and get to the point where they can pick who might even be the leadership that they want in there. And we'll make sure they get honest elections, just like America's getting honest elections. But they're a long ways from that. And we're going to have a pretty strong hand in there for the time being because of all the other intelligence agencies from all over the world. They're trying to manage that situation, and we're doing so in collusion with China and the Cubans. And so, while we get their town cleaned up, we're not letting somebody else take control of it. And those people want to whine and moan, and it's illegal, and blah blah blah.
So we're going to
All right,
occupy, but we're
whatever.
not there to start trouble at this point. We're trying to stabilize the country, and at some point, we're going to phase out. Correct?
Well, we don't want to be there. We'll be there as long as it takes to get them on their feet and get their
Right.
own industry going. But we're also not going to let somebody else come in and just come into a vacuum. So we'll be in there, and it's our strategic interest. Uh, but we're going to not do it at the expense of the Venezuelan people.
Does it
We're
have
not
anything to
there to
do
be
with
the next.
silver? Does it
Say
have,
again.
yeah, Juanito, does it have anything to do with silver at all?
Well, you have
Not just
huge
oil.
silver mines in Venezuela besides the oil and stuff like that. And so one of the things that was not known was that there was a agreement with certain manufacturers to come in and take the silver out of a couple of the key mines, and those agreements had come into play just in the last few weeks. So
Right.
we're putting an end to all that for the moment, and uh,
Are
you
those
know,
mines operational, or we're going to make sure that they become operational? And
oh,
how
they're
would that affect the
operational.
market?
They're operational now. It's a big deal, but we'll help them become
More
much more
productive?
efficient. Yeah, and they were stolen from other people, 40 years ago, 30
I can
years ago.
imagine. Yeah. And not too long ago, not to switch gears on you, but I have to. Not too long ago, a few months back, Donald Trump, look, you believe, for example, that they have tremendous amount of technology, our government, that they're hiding from us. True or false?
Well, that's a kind of a loaded question. Of course, we have technology within our uh, military and intelligence components that's
Right.
not leaked out to the public or let out to the public. In fact,
Correct.
certain of the physics are not within the public sector. You have to actually be invited to the classes to learn the way this other physics works,
Yeah. Yeah.
subatomic.
You remember a gentleman
And
by he's a army guy, Philip Corso? He wrote a very famous
yeah,
book,
of
The Day
course, of
After
course, yeah,
Roswell.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. As a matter of fact, he basically said that there's tremendous, tremendous technology hiding in Wright-Patterson,
Well, let me
Dulce.
help people out a little bit here.
Sure.
Um, just saying alien technology doesn't mean that it's from outer space
Correct.
necessarily.
Correct. I'm in
And
agreement there.
part of what you have to kind of dial in here, for example, with the Germans, the Vril Society and similar, before even World War One, they
Right.
were out looking for other technology. Some of it they were going after from, you know, ancient dead spirits that were still alive from some prior time that could convey technology. But they were also looking at what was Indiana Jones based on.
Correct.
A true fact. They were looking at these ancient societies for hidden documentation of prior technology that was available here, which had become concealed. If you look at the Indian, oh, ancient writings, I'm zoning out for a second here, but I'm not saying the word right, Vanatu, their god
Hmm.
rode in a spaceship or a ship above the earth, and he could fire laser beams of light and destroy whole cities. In fact, when Oppenheimer, there at Trinity, when we blew the first atomic bomb,
Mm-hmm.
uh, after the bomb blew, he said, "I am made like God, a destroyer of worlds," and that's a quote from the Indian scriptures,
Right.
and where they even give very detailed specifications of the craft that he flew, including a pure mercury vat or repository in the base of the ship
Mm-hmm.
that was the power system or the fuel. And you see mercury come up over and over, red mercury and the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Star Trek stuff and like that. There's a lot of information there that's worthwhile. In fact, of course, the reason for the mercury is the density.
Right. Right.
Um, so there's a lot of things that come into play here that are pretty interesting
Yeah.
if you get into it deep enough. Was somebody here before,
Mm-hmm.
and are there artifacts still here?
Yeah.
Multiple times around the world, we've had coal miners in areas where we're told the coal is, of hundreds of millions of years old, of tens of millions of years old,
Right.
and they find artifacts, wheels, gears. It's like looking at the um, Planet of the Apes,
Right.
and then they go out and find the cave, and it's a doll that speaks English, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mama, and nobody wants you to know the stuff. Is there a pre-Adamic history, not just on Earth but within our solar system? And I would say the answer is yes, and we have lots of documentation of that. There's a particular site that I don't have liberty, I don't think, to discuss
Yeah.
precisely, but there's a particular site. Um, and the way that we found this site, and it's at a pretty obvious location, um, but in the early 90s, during one of the shuttle missions, a photographic thing was done. And they noticed that there was these uh, mounds in a particular area. And they seemed to have a pattern, like a wagon wheel pattern.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so a ground team of a couple of the astronauts led it because they were the ones that had seen this,
Right.
and it was at a otherwise obvious location,
Right.
and but where the stuff was more recent in the thousands of years.
Yeah.
And so they went to this place that was just adjacent to this main library, if you will, and found that there were these mounds there. And the reason it was so interesting to them was that the mounds appeared to have very particular shapes. Um, uh, Two of them looked literally like the outline of an aircraft,
Mm-hmm.
um, where the ground had settled around it. And the speculation was, well, is there something buried here? And it's an indentation. And um, one of the things you have to keep in mind, there was two floods. There was Noah's flood, but there was a flood that was much more ancient than Noah's also. We had two floods on planet Earth. And that's why Noah got the rainbow and promised, God promised Noah he would never destroy the earth by flooding it again in that same way. Well, Noah understood this because his grandfather appears related to him, the earlier flood
Mm-hmm.
in this earlier history, earlier than Adam. Okay, Adam was planted after that prior civilization was
Mm-hmm.
destroyed. When you look at it this way, and so in that earlier flood, uh, it's the working belief. The people that have looked into this, and I know more than I want to talk about today, but the earlier flood had tremendous weight and left huge deposits of dirt, washing across the earth, like when the sand comes in and out with a tide. And it wasn't a flood where the bowels of deep broke open and the water just came up. But if you had a near pass by another planet or celestial object, as it approached the Earth and went away with gravitation, it would have caused tides. And so tidal washing, flooding across the Earth, huge tides, hundreds of feet high, perhaps thousands of feet high, even a mile or two high. And in the aftermath of that flooding, it would deposit all of this dirt, soil on the ground. And so at this location, what it appears was that this was buried by in these sands and this tidal action, and then the imprints of the pressure of this water, water a mile high maybe, pushed down on this site and literally just pushed down, and the vehicles that were there present left an outline all the way up to the surface, and the distance was about 60 feet.
Wow.
And so there were excavations done and fairly interesting things as a result of that.
Right.
And the point is that we're living in the leftovers, the junkyard from probably not one but several civilizations.
100%.
And we see it all over the world and all over our solar system.
Tartaria, Atlantis, etc.
I'm not the Tartarian thing is
Hokey
it's
pokey.
like flat Earth. It's a bunch of bullshit for the most part. There is little pieces of it that are accurate, not the way that most of the people are extrapolating it out. And I'm not.
You're familiar with Admiral Byrd, correct?
Of course.
Yeah. Admiral Byrd went on the other side of the ice wall. They landed him like they landed a feather, according to his.
Well, it's you have to. You're thinking of an ice wall vertically, and it's not.
Okay.
It's horizontal. But anyway, go ahead.
But anyway, so maybe the technology comes from, because he said it might not be extraterrestrial, and I agree. It might come from the other side of the ice wall, whether it's vertical or whatever shape it's in. It doesn't matter. But there is
what you're really looking at. I'll just cut to the chase for you. What you're really looking at is you're looking at a breakaway civilization that began that breakaway a little over 200 years ago in earnest, and they're gaining about a year on everybody else per decade, compounded.
Right.
The problem for them is that they still need the manufacturing and much of what we have, and they're trying to manage this from afar. So, and that's a component in the fight.
Yeah. Well, we had Tesla, we had Nikolai Tesla, we had Raymond Royal Rife. We had some amazing inventors of our time that addressed disease, etc. Donald Trump, about a few months back, takes a video that was absolutely 100% fabricated artificial intelligence bullshit on steroids, and he put that video on Truth Social for a few hours, and it caused all kinds of crazy stuff. And Amber and I are in the business of where people can come and heal on their own. Their body heals basically when they're in the frequency. The frequency doesn't heal you. It's the body that understands the frequency. It's the body that heals you. So we understand what this is. We know that they have technology that they've been hiding from us. My question to you is very simple. You are connected with some of the most amazing people based on who you are. Do you have any connections with people? Have you been brought to any secret military base that you know of that they actually have med beds, whatever you want to call it? It could be, celestial chambers, technology, obviously, that you and I don't understand. A lot of people out there don't understand. But we know that they have technologies out there that could wipe out the medical industry probably in 2 weeks. They don't want to do that, obviously, because it's vastly disruptive technology. But do you, sir, have any friends that have taken you or told you something secretly that maybe you might want to divulge to the crowd out here?
I think you're phrasing it the wrong way. The reality is that we've done amazing things with the tech. I had somebody that kept saying there was a chip that had this stuff, and it's not a chip, it's a program. It pissed me off. And it damaged them for saying it incorrectly.
Mm-hmm.
But we can diagnose just using radio frequency, about 150,000 different disease protocols. That's up from about 100,000 just a decade ago. It's like getting more horsepower out of your car. To increase the horsepower 10% might cost, uh, 20% of the value of the motor you built. To increase it 50% might cost you twice what you had in the engine to begin with. As you go up, it's gaining more horsepower or more speed exponentially increases the cost. It's the same thing with this. There's only so many diseases that the body can have, and things like that. And to get further and further, that last little bit becomes extremely difficult. That said, think of 150,000 different disease protocols. It's an astonishing thing. It means that you can treat almost anything that the body might come up with, or a combination thereof. At least have an understanding of what the disease process is, how it's working, how it's communicating, etc., and come up with responses for it that could be far more effective, whether it's chemical, electrical, magnetic, um, uh, and what combination of foods or herbs or whatever, or actual physical intervention could have the greatest effect to cancel and reverse a disease. Those systems, the early versions, were just developed by DARPA, with the prospect of being able to fly in rotorcraft or drone type vehicles of certain configurations to pick up a wounded soldier on the battlefield, literally throw them into a cocoon, and be able to begin monitoring the body, literally with pressure, not just air, but other fluids, create precise tourniquets on the body, put through the skin, not a shot with a syringe. Things that would help sustain the body, keep it viable, maintain circulation, even if the heart wasn't pumping, be able to maintain fluid flow and oxygenation long enough to get them to a emergency location, and then you buy them that golden hour. Those have evolved and evolved and evolved. But think of the way that our laws are written, etc. Are you able to guarantee that you're going to cure the leukemia patient? Is it tested on enough people? Is it blah, blah, blah? Do we understand leukemia enough? We understand the basics, but there's a lot of ways that it grows and moves. It's like
no
my
one
friend.
Can guarantee, not even the medical industry can guarantee that with their meds.
It's like my friend that got this stomach cancer.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure that it was accurate to call it a cancer, but it was moving so fast that if they had, they said she'd be dead in, 48 hours.
Correct.
From this cancer. It was growing so fast, and think of, people that get exposure to certain types of bacteria, flesh-eating bacteria. Okay. How quickly can you diagnose it? How can you stop it? Is it better to do it with light or some other frequency to stop it, as opposed to an antibiotic or something else? Okay. Is it aerosolized? Is it through the veins? Is it topical? Those systems are becoming extremely advanced. I remember seeing, I would say it was about I'm just guessing here, I think it was about 99, because I was on the board of a medical group at the time, And so we had a particular company that came out, their rep came out and showed us a radiological device that was like a you know, one of the little flat computers, a writing computer like that. It was about 9 by 12, and would put it up in front of the body. There wasn't danger like with an X-ray, because it was radiological, like using um, looking at a baby intravenously with ultrasound, and could pass it over the whole body. And a doctor could look at somebody right there without having to go to an X-ray technician, whatever, and could see and dial for depth, um, different parts of the body, to look at a broken bone, um, a gunshot, things like that, and do it instantaneously. Okay, no big workup, whatever. No going to radiology. Think of somebody getting in a car accident or getting shot, and without having to take the extra 15 to 25 minutes that it takes to go into radiology, get a X-ray that's workable while keeping somebody functional, and then um, come up with a protocol to deal with it. Being able to look at it real time right there, and then come up with a solution, relatively instantaneously. That's a big deal.
Sure.
And
my question to you is this:
that was a very long time ago. It was 30 years ago, or just close to it, that I saw that technology. Now, do you see that in use yet? I have not seen it in use yet. But that was not military.
Yeah.
That was being. It may very well be there was some other concern about the safety of the device that wasn't quite finished yet. I haven't looked, but it may be that it's out there now.
Yeah,
but,
we know that
anyway.
Trump wants everybody to be healthy. We know that Trump wants everybody to be wealthy, healthy, and he wants us to be the richest country by a factor of 1,000, 10,000 times more richer than any other country in the world. He knows that he has our best interests at heart. Why did he release that video about the med beds? He knew it was artificial intelligence. I'm sure he had people around him say, "Listen, sir, that video is artificial intelligence. We know it's not you." And I'm sure he knew about that. I have to get it explained. But my question is, why did he release that video? Did he release that video because he wants to drop a breadcrumb, or is he trolling us?
He's helping you to understand there's a future that's close and we can do it. But who blocked what I just described to you from coming to market?
Good question.
Okay, and why wasn't it allowed to come to market? It was safe enough for us to look at that time, and it was being marketed to us. Somebody stopped it.
Right. So we know that we have technologies that are hiding.
Just one moment. I've got to take a call here. It'll only take me a moment. Pause for just a minute.
We'll be right back, guys. The wonders of live television or pre-recorded. But we want to know about this med bed question because it is something that everybody wants to know. I personally think that Donald Trump is sending us a direct message saying, hang tight, we're coming, and they're going to release all kinds of stuff. So we'll see what he says, but I think he's right in line. He's basically trying to tell us that, yes, you're thinking the right way, Mel, and I think a lot of you guys out there are thinking the right way as well. So let's see what he says. I'm curious myself. Okay, so basically what I'm hearing you say, if I'm not mistaken, Juanito, is yes, we have technologies that they're hiding from us. To what extent, to what kind of technologies, we don't know. But I think Donald Trump, I think maybe we're on the same page. I think Donald Trump is sending us.
Well, hold on. I want to make sure we're clear on this. There certainly is stuff that within a, who spends more on medical than any other group on planet Earth?
United States of America.
You know who it is? Huh?
Us.
Not just generically United States of America. Department of Defense.
Right.
We do more research and development there DARPA's a wing of it with certain advanced things. But again, even what I just described to you a moment ago, that's
Right.
not wild, crazy technology.
Right. I
What the
understand.
issue is there
Holding it
is
back.
there an ability to deploy it based on how our medical systems are set up, the protocols for allowing stuff to come out and be used, etc. Was there a risk in using that particular technology? I didn't see it, but that's I'm not the person that's supposed to do that,
Right.
and so there's lots of things that have been slowed down or stopped due to the bureaucracy.
Well,
And maybe we need to pull the reins back on some of that and give more room for development and shorten up the process. And
right.
by the way, it serves certain groups that are already there to have these things, these thresholds so high that for example, I have another doctor, a Jewish friend, outstanding guy. He came up with a protocol for testing drugs that were already deemed safe for use for certain disease bodily functions protocols to rapidly test for those same drugs in a patient by patient test where they would take a portion of your blood, duplicate it in a very precise way within hours,
Interesting.
and then test it. And I think they could test, I think, if I'm not off, I think 3,600 drugs could be tested against different disease protocols, cancers, all sorts of things, to see which drug your body would react to in a favorable way, which ones were clearly not favorable. And it was stunning. And he was at one of the major universities in the world here in the United States, and he literally only needed, maybe $1 million to do this program. They were all willing to do it. The university was ready to go with it, and then somebody decided that it would um, possibly lower money coming in for other stuff in another department. Another department head ran against it, didn't want to see it done because it would potentially stop their research funding for whatever it was they were doing. I mean, the politics of it, and it was just crushing to this particular individual, crushing because he had it. He had it figured out. He did the whole thing. He could do it on a shoestring, and but he needed, even with the money, going out and doing it privately was just he could do it in the university system for so much cheaper, and he couldn't get the clearance to go. Department head, the politics of it was brutal. I think what you're really seeing is that Trump would like to see greater access to these technologies and the ability to see them all brought to bear, help America and the world. And to say it's a med bed, like it's just one machine, it's like saying there's one pill you take to fix something. There may be technologies encompassed within that concept that maybe it's closer to a Star Trek bed where you go get the diagnosis on the bed and a little bit of doctor aid, and then we decide what the best way to proceed is with what you have. But it's not just throw you into a cocoon
Right.
and you
No,
come out an
totally.
hour later fixed.
And for
And I
example,
think
it's
that's what
staying.
people think of with the med bed. They think you're just going to throw in a cocoon,
Right.
and it's all fixed instantaneously, and it's done. And it there may be some things where that is helped.
Hmm.
I think probably what a lot of people are thinking of is also like with a hyperbaric chamber. You just throw them in there, and they're in that for a certain period of time, and we change a few dials and knobs and controls, and you come out and you're all better. And I
Yeah.
don't think it. I
No,
think
it's
that
not.
that's
It's not a quick.
probably overly simplistic way of looking at it. We
No, it's
have
not a quick
technology that
instant
needs to be
oats or
applied.
instant grits. We know that. But however, it's funny you just mentioned
But
the
again, as soon
hyperbaric.
as you say a
Yeah,
med bed,
yeah,
that's what people think of.
right. No,
I'm going to throw them in there. They're going to come out. I'm going home with my baby, and they'll be cured an hour later.
right.
Not the way that it's going to work.
Well, we don't know what they have. They have 6,000 patents. You know who Patrick Bet David is? You're familiar who he is?
Yes, of course, of
Okay.
course, of course.
Patrick came out and said he wants to know what's in those 6,000 patents. He knows about Ray Patterson. He knows what I know. Okay. But we don't know what's behind those walls. But what I'm trying to say is the fact that he put it out there, he's trying to send us a breadcrumb. Personally, we got all kinds of modalities that's staying alive in Cape Canaveral.
Well, okay, hold on. Let me
But
let me slow you down for a
yeah,
second. Hold on. The problem is you have millions and millions and millions of patents that never ended up in devices being built because they had a
correct.
patentable idea, but it did not end up being,
The
what
finished product.
it wouldn't work out at the end.
Right.
There was some issue with it. Okay. Um, People get patents all the time,
Sure.
but are not able to bring them to market, not because it's not
But I see the
uh,
tide turning, Juanito. I just watched the
but that's
movie.
my point.
Yeah.
There's stuff, I'm thinking of one specific technology right now that
Mhm.
years ago, Lockheed Martin decided they needed to come up with some cash. So they went in the vault and they started pulling out a bunch of patents, and they threw them out to all the guys and said, anybody, any of these things here that we have, these are all patents that we have that are getting ready to expire. Should we renew them? How can they be used? Is there some use for them now?
Right.
And there was one particular thing that guys were looking at, and I was going, well, wait a minute. If you have that, you can transmit power optically. And they're like, really? No, we can't do that. Yeah, I said, you certainly could.
Mhm.
If you can convert light to magnetism or electricity, then if you have the ability to transmit light in this particular way, in these wavelengths, you can convert it to electricity at the other end. It'd be a more efficient power line, and it
Yeah.
wouldn't heat up along the way. And so they took it off. They did tests. They went, oh yeah, actually, it does work that way.
Right.
And but it was patented for a different reason.
But just to
Um,
make a point, my wife and I 2 days ago we watched the last Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise, and
yeah,
in that
yeah, yeah.
movie they mentioned the hyperbaric chamber. See what I'm saying? The tide's getting ready to turn. Maybe the next movie they come out with, they're going to mention scalar wave biophotonic energy. Okay, red light. Everybody knows about the red light therapy. I got we bought a few light bulbs with red light therapy. My dogs absolutely love it. Okay, they could hang out anywhere they want in 1,700 square feet, but they choose to hang out where the red light therapy with the lights on. You tell me why.
Well, it's probably because it's a little bit warmer. It's warming them up inside. But let
I
me
knew
just
you'd
say
have
this.
the
Well, hold
answer.
on. Well, but hold on. This is a really important thing. So
Yeah.
I've been on the ultraviolet infrared light stuff for a very long time. In fact, I helped bring the technology back from Russia in
Hmm.
the early '90s for photoluminescence to
Right.
um, clean to help with blood disorders,
Sure.
and the early ones were removing the blood and then illuminating at 1160 angstrom, and you know destroying bacteria and viral infections and things like that, like what we do with marine environments where you have sea life in an aquarium and you got to clean the bacteria and stuff. You're throwing food in there for killer whales and like that, they can get infections
Yeah.
just from the food rotting, and you filter it out. Well, do you get all the bacteria and like that? We actually, a friend of mine created a patented system that made it possible for the orcas to live in a closed circuit marine environment for these, with NAMU and SHAMU before them and things
Hmm.
like that. That's just like your body. it's a closed saltwater environment, and you have to keep it clean and keep the bacteria and viral growth down. They do it by running the water through a room that has ultraviolet light at 1160 angstrom, and it neutralizes all the bacterial and viral material, so that they don't get the whole water tank become one big infection. Same thing can be done with the body, with the blood. Um, so I understand that technology very well. The problem is, when you're talking about the red light therapy and things like that, and I had a couple of doctor friends who were just red hot on this, 30 years ago. But in talking with the Russian doctors that were really up to speed on this from the 60s and 70s that we were dealing with, they found that you were burning the tissues subcutaneously, where the wavelengths slowed down, intersected in certain areas, and so you were actually burning tissue, and it was not the best way to do it. That's why we were removing the blood and doing this stuff instead of going it transdermally with the ultraviolet. And even though there was ways to do it, they still wanted to go in and do it fiber optically into the vein, and do it there as opposed to through the skin, with a patch or something like that. And so we come back to, is that the best way to treat some diseases that may be popular and popularized and even agreed to within the medical industry? Does that make it the very best thing? And I'll use another example. Ultrasound. We look at babies in vitro with ultrasound, but we're very careful with the frequencies we use. Not all ultrasound is the same, because I can use ultrasound to break up kidney stones and bladder stones, okay, and cause them to break up enough that the body can pass them out. If I can do that with a kidney or a bladder stone, I just change the frequency. I can cook a baby in the womb. I can fry its brain. I can break its bones. So just because you have the ability to do it in one way doesn't mean that in an unskilled technician's hands, you're not causing other problems.
Sure.
And even with certain sonoluminescence techniques, you can cause things to happen that you don't want to happen. So there's a lot of restrictions on how you go about it and what you're doing that need to be vetted and verified to make sure you're in the right range. And you're not going to do some further harm. There's a lot of tech out there that, just like with the photoluminescence, when you got right down to it, we knew how to do it. The simpler, easier way would be transdermally through thin areas of the skin.
Right.
But even if you're going to do that, you have to pick the areas very carefully and probably rotate them, because you're going to damage material, and some of it scars and will never heal again. If you can do it so it doesn't leave a scar and the tissue can repair, that's one thing. But if you're going to damage it and then you have a scarred area that doesn't repair, you could cause damage that doesn't get fixed the rest of their lives.
Right.
So there's a lot of, it sounds great. We have a lot of amazing opportunities, but there's, broader deployment and use. There's a lot of work there to be done. We just need to get some of the medical stuff out of the way, just like in the university setting. The biggest stop to development of alternative treatments and methodologies, in my opinion, in the whole system is the universities and the way that they're funded and operate. They're the stick in the mud.
Yeah.
And it's not over at DARPA. It's not over at the Department of Defense. It's not at the industry level. They're doing amazing stuff. It's the universities that end up getting to be the ones to do most of the testing, and it's insane.
Well, awesome, brother. Before I go, one last announcement. My X account will be down below. We need you to retweet this. It's pinned at the top, so you can't miss it when you get to my X account. The very first thing that's pinned at the top is this blog that needs to be retweeted thousands of times. And also, we have silver left 786-704-8817 delivery in 2 weeks. 786-704-8817. Text me, please. Okay. $1,000 is the minimum on that, and XRP, I can get you as much as you want. 10,000 is the minimum, same number. Brother, it's been a pleasure having you again. The red light therapy, I happen to like it. Is there any reactions or bad reactions to it, or any things that can go
Well,
wrong?
again, there may be other ways to have a similar effect without essentially burning. You don't call it this, but it's like going to the old suntan machines,
Right.
and you're getting energy wavelengths. And I remember I had a friend gal that worked at one of those places, and
I used
over
to
a
go to
period of about
tanning
2 years, her
machines.
skin turned to leather.
Yeah.
She looked very much more aged than she
Yeah.
was to begin with.
Yeah.
In her case, we did treat it. And the way that she treated it was she went to a totally 100% all raw foods and
Right.
primarily fruits. And she went from looking like she was 20 years older than she was supposed to be on her skin,
Hmm.
came all the way back. I mean, she really looked outstanding, but it was about 2 years of that. And sometimes she'd be great if I could get her to do a show. It was a very discouraging and then encouraging experience to come up with the right solution
Yeah.
to solve that problem. And if you can do that with the skin, which is the largest organ of your body, you can do it with other parts of the body. Also, would be my
Sure.
read on it. So,
Absolutely. Hey, if you come back down to Florida, give me a heads up. We'll hang out.
okay, yeah, we'll
I don't know
see.
if there's any plans of coming to Florida anytime this.
My schedule changed even in the last 3 weeks. It changed about 4 times because
Wow.
where I was supposed to be 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, yesterday has been fluid the whole way. So unfortunately, it's just
Interesting.
hard to know, and it will probably get less predictable, not more, for the next period of time.
Thanks, Juanito. Brother, we'll catch you very soon.
All
Keep me
right,
posted. Anytime you
appreciate it.
want to come on the show, if there's like some emergency, whatever, don't just call Nino Rodriguez at 4 o'clock in the morning. If my phone rings and I'm still answering, that means we could do a podcast at 4 o'clock in the morning too. All right.
All right,
Thank you, brother.
fair enough.
Bye bye.
All right.